السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. ما يهد الله فلا مضل له وما يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. وإذا أراد الله بقوم سوءا فلا يمرض الله وما لهم من دونه وما لهم من وما لهم من دونه من وال. That's what God says in Surah Al-A'raf, ayah number 11. Indeed, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. And when Allah wills a people's punishment, there can be no averting it, and they will find besides Him no protector. Brothers, today I want to discuss about our affinity, our affection towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying very clearly in this ayah that He's not going to change the condition of our ummah. He does not change the condition of the people until they change what is within themselves, what is within their hearts and their minds. Very clear, very simple. Yet it is something that most of us fail to adhere to, fail to understand. That this is not just an individual level, but it's also collective. Meaning that this is an ummah-wide thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just one person or two people here and there or two scholars. No, the ummah, the people of the ummah, change what is within themselves. If they want to see this, their state, their statehood, their well-being, the entire ummah as a whole, to change and prosper. You see, when we look at the history of Islam, our history is filled with many there's a lot of rich history, but there's also a lot of moments that have really stained our history as well. As any empire would be. And there have been many khulafas throughout these 1400 years, sorry, not 1400 years, less than that. But the point is, quite often in today's world, alhamdulillah, more Muslims are starting to realize and learning about their history, and they're seeing that a lot of the things that we have today, that we use today, we can attribute to Muslims historically, from mathematics, algebra, anatomy, health, science, engineering, architecture, even coffee. All this comes from the Muslim world. And more Muslims are starting to see this, and now you see people are correcting this on social media. People are saying this and correcting others. We had this rich history. These things that you attribute to Einstein and others actually goes predates Einstein, predates all the way hundreds of years ago, many hundreds of years. The history books rewrote Islam out of it because the history was written by the victors. The victors in these cases were the disbelievers, the kuffar. They won and they rewrote the history, and that's why ages of some of our empires. During these times, this is where you find someone is a scholar and Islam. They're they are, they have all these they're atoms. I mean, they are very well respected. But at the same time, these same exact people are also pioneering these fields in the dunya, engineering, mathematics, all these. I mean, you find that some of the greatest scholars were also pioneers in the dunya matters. Topography, mapping of the world. That was, I don't remember the scholar's name at the moment, but he was a scholar in his own right as well. I mean, this is what the Muslims were, right? Because they had this affection towards the sun. They had this love for Allah and this love for Prophet Sallallahu. And this showed in their words and actions. Nowadays, it's just words, but this showed in their words and their actions. It was said that during one of the moments before the when Islam had conquered, uh, now what we now call Spain. Um, During those golden era moments, if you will, the Kufar when they came and they wanted to scout the enemy, they were looking into the Muslim Empire. They wanted to take it over, and so the scouts they would go into the cities and the towns, and they would just ask simple questions to the people, specifically the children. Because as the children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Question now we ask children all the time. The children of those days, how did they respond? I want to be a scholar. I want to be an alim. I want to be a hafiz. I want to be a mujahid. I want to be all these things that are specific to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. And then they would say later, maybe I want to be also, a scholar in mathematics. But first and foremost was the love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The love for Prophet sallallahu. That came first. And this was the wish of most children, not just for the kids. This was the wish of all children. This is how they were taught. This is how they were raised. This is how they grew up. And this is how they grew up to being pioneers in the fields of the dunya, as well as being scholars in Islam as well. Because this it starts from a young age. It starts as a seed for the young ones. And so the scouts who are working for the enemies of Islam, they see this and they say these people cannot be defeated because even the children already know what they want to do. They already know they want to give their life for the sake of Allah. They can't stop these people. They don't fear death. They don't fear anything except for the wrath of Allah Himself. So how can we defeat these people? So they didn't attack in those times. Fast forward many, many years later, and as people like to call it, society evolved, quote unquote, but it wasn't an evolution, it was a corruption. The society got corrupted, and the people started to look to the dunya instead of looking to Islam. They started to imitate the dunya and worldly matters. They started to prioritize the worldly matters. That became more important to them. They wanted to be pioneers still in all the, health, mathematics, engineering, all these things, but for the sake of those fields, not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, the action may seem to be the same, but the intention is a huge shift. That intention has a ripple effect over time and over the generations, over the people. So again, we have more scouts that come from the enemies of Islam and the kings started asking questions amongst the people, especially back to the children. What do you want to be when you grow up? And this is when the children no longer had the same answers of being a scholar. No, they wanted to be pioneers in their respective fields. Islam was no longer part of the picture. They were only going to the masjid because they had to go, not because they wanted to go. They prayed because they were forced to pray, not because they actually had a love for the Lord. And this is when the enemies of Islam knew that it was time to attack. And that marked that moment is when they actually did take over. They actually the Muslims were destroyed. I mean, it was so bad if you look at the exposition of the Muslims in Spain, they were massacred. And those that were left alive, they had to be exiled. If they wanted to remain in the country, they had to change their religion. I mean, that's how bad it became. It was. We think of these things as such small matters. And we think that, oh, maybe they just didn't have good defenses or their army was weak. It wasn't these things. It's our hearts and our minds. That's what weakened. That's what weakened over time and was corrupted over time. And that had a triple effect that led to the downfall of our empires. our Khilafah. And this is something that has repeated over and over throughout time. I mean, look at the Muslim Empire, the Spanish Empire. I mean, all throughout Islamic history, this is always the case. This is just it's just a matter of a difference in the setting, not. And so now we look past to modern day. It never ceases to amaze me how many Muslims are completely unaware that we actually had a Khilafah just barely 100 years ago. I mean, wasn't much of a Khilafah. It was already falling apart. But they were still a single ruler for the Muslims. And thus, there was protection for the Muslims from the enemies of Islam. And the enemies of Islam have never changed their game, they never changed their plan, they never changed their intention. Their goal has always been the same to dismantle Islam, to dismantle the Muslims, to destroy them. This is not some opinion, this is just recorded history. It doesn't matter where it comes from, it's just the enemies of Islam have always had this intention. And so, the empire of Islam, the Khilafah, it was already, the people were already weak, they were far away from their religion, they were already weak minded, the man was weak, the love for Islam was no longer there. Jahiliyyah, the ignorance of the deen had become rampant amongst the people. This was the common uh, mindset, if you will, during this last era of the last Khilafah. And so then Islam, they broke down the Khilafah and they split us into nation states. And remember, there was, uh, when India was colonized by the British Empire, and the Muslims were being targeted, and they were being rounded up and arrested. The British general was overseeing the Muslims that are getting arrested, specifically from one area. And uh, the scholar, he went up to the British general, and he said to him, you know, weak in their faith. They were already weak in morale. Why did you have to destroy the Khilafah? Why did you have to destroy what kept us together? And his response was because if, even no matter how weak these Muslims are in their mind, if the Khalifa raised a call for jihad against the enemies of Islam, against us, 1 million Muslims would stand up. And no army in the world could stand against them. And so we have to dismantle and destroy and create nation states so that we can keep you divided. As I say, divide and conquer. And that's exactly how it's working and has been working now for 100 years. SubhanAllah, this is where we are today. And we think, well, what's so bad about that? Well, you don't have to look very far because for decades and decades, from before I was even born, the Muslim Ummah is always in turmoil. Always in turmoil. Palestine is not the only country suffering. So the Palestine is actually suffering probably the greatest out of it right now. But the Muslim Ummah has always been suffering and has been in turmoil for so long. And subhanAllah, one thing I think that destroys the Muslim Ummah, the Muslim mindset, the Iman, our hearts, our minds. And when we talk about pride, we can talk about arrogance, and yes, those characteristics absolutely affect the Muslim Iman. But there's another characteristic I think that's overlooked, that's very, very present in our society, and that is the imitation of the Muslim. I think the Prophet where Prophet said the strongest bonds of faith are loyalty for the sake of Allah, enmity for the sake of Allah, love for the sake of Allah. And Sheikh ibn Taymiyyah, and I can go into many of his scholars, but Sheikh ibn Taymiyyah, he once said that the outward imitation leads to a type of love and feeling close in one's heart, just as love in one's heart leads to outward imitation. This is something that we see in real life. And then he continues to say that imitating others and being like them in outward appearance and behavior leads to imitating them and being like them in one's heart and mind by way of gradual hidden influence. We have seen that the Jews and Christians who mix with the Muslims are milder in terms of disbelief than others. Just as we have seen the Muslims who mix a great deal with the Jews and Christians are weaker in than others. And I can go to medical scholars and and others, and they're all saying the same thing. It's all the same thing. That this imitation of the Western standards, of Western cultures, it has weakened our Iman. It has weakened the Muslims, especially the youth. The youth are so much more vulnerable to these cultures, Muslim cultures. I know because I grew up here now. I was a part of that as well. Whether it be the African American culture or now it's the Japanese culture people are imitating, there's this love that we're replacing. What could be the love for the sake of Allah, love for Allah, love for the Deen. We are replacing that with the love for the culture, right? And this culture includes the, from our movies to our TV shows to music. These forms of entertainment, they have a major influence on these cultures. Doesn't matter if it's just African American culture, Japanese culture, whatever. All these cultures are heavily influenced by by the media, by entertainment. And by letting ourselves fall into this trap into thinking that there's nothing wrong with wearing, these fitted caps and baggy clothes or specific type of clothes that are associated with that specific culture, whatever the culture may be. And you start imitating this. You start talking the same way they talk. You watch the same media that they watch. This is going to have an impact on your economy. You cannot say otherwise. I don't care if you're a hafid. I don't care if you're going to the Muslim 5 times a day. This is affecting your iman whether you realize it or not. This is going to corrupt you over time if it has to already corrupt you. I know because I was in this, like I mentioned earlier. I was a part of this culture. Growing up in New York, growing up in Charlotte, I was a part of this for so long. Where I just wanted to be like the other people around me. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like them. I had my knowledge. I knew that my father taught me very well. But my heart was yearning for something else. It wasn't yearning for Islam. It wasn't yearning to imitate the believers, imitating what's best for us. It was imitating what's the worst for us, imitating the disbelievers. And I went through many years of just being confused and causing myself so much pain that I will have to account for on their judgment. Alhamdulillah, I've gone past that. But I wasted a lot of my years in my youth dedicating to causes and nonsense that have done nothing beneficial for myself or for anyone else. And this is the reality most Muslims, especially Muslim youth, are going through. I can talk about youth, but it's not just a youth problem either. See, when I go to the workplace, and I work in an IT office, and when they have these Christmas lunches, they have it every year in almost every office. And when I see Muslims partake in these Christmas lunches, and they're even wearing the same clothes as these Christmas sweaters and antler things. I mean, it's so pathetic. And then I'm feeling bummed with the same person later on. I don't understand. Like, you can't do these things. You can't imitate these people. It doesn't work that way. You cannot have the same things in your heart at the same time. You don't have to, partake in their events and imitate what they do just to be at that workplace. You do your work, that's all that matters. Anything else is unnecessary. But yet, I see this so often with Muslims who are just, I don't know, is this dire need to fit in or what it may be, I don't know. And these are older, Muslims are older than me, significantly much older than me. And they feel the need to be a part of these events. It's kind of, when we talk about especially Christmas, it's just so funny because of the fact that most Christian scholars don't even celebrate Christmas because they know it has paganistic origins. Those who don't know, it doesn't take more than a few Google searches. You'll see that Christmas originates from the Roman pagan holiday that Christians later adopted and turned into their own thing. But every symbolism from Christmas actually comes from paganism. So when you're imitating what they're doing on this day, you're not just celebrating a Christian holiday, you're celebrating a pagan holiday. I mean, how for against Allah could you possibly be by partaking in these events? That moment, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And if you ask these Muslims why they do it, they won't have a response. But it's obvious. It's because they just want to do these things. They want to fit in. They want to partake in these events. They want to have this, quote unquote fun. This is not good for your iman. There's nothing good that can come from this. Some people say, oh, well, they're not mentioning Jesus and all that, but it's the symbolism all around. They have the Christmas tree, they're doing the gifts, all this is all part of the holiday. It doesn't matter if it's consumerism or just food. You don't need to partake in these events. It's not necessary. No one's requiring you to do that. But Muslims choose to do it for whatever reason it may be. وكلكم هذا واستغفر لكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه انه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. When we look at what's happening in Palestine and Muslim entirely, I'm not saying that the imitation of the disbelievers is the sole reason why Muslims are here as we are today. It's so much more than that. But this is a part of it. And I've gone through for over a year now. If you haven't, you come to my khutbah, you probably noticed every single khutbah I always make a point because I believe that's my obligation. Being here, I'm supposed to have to speak up on Palestine. Now, I'll always bring a Palestine in all my khutbahs, inshallah. But the one point is that what led to this point where Muslims are being genocided? What led to this point? Yes, Muslims in Palestine have been facing airstrikes and a lot of killings for many years. Every other year there was something else happening, especially during Ramadan time. But this is different. This has been nonstop. And every single day it's nonstop pain and atrocities that we are constantly witnessing. And how many of us are starting to tone it out because it's too much to bear? How many of us don't even want to talk about it anymore because it's too hard to think about it? It hurts too much. It's why they are every hour, every second of every day. They live it. So we don't have the right to tone these things out. We don't have the right to not talk about it anymore just because it's going on for too long or because it hurts too much. No, we have to keep on talking about it. We have to keep on spreading this and sharing this, even if it hurts others. We must do that because this is the least we can really do, other than dua and other than making sure we raise our children correctly, Islamically, that they start to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they love the Quran, they love the Sunnah of Prophet and not love the disbelievers, and they don't love the music, and they don't love the culture that destroys their iman. We have to raise them. But these are all things that we are doing indirectly. Dua is the only thing we can truly do that's directly for them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already said that He does not change the condition of people unless they change what is within themselves. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ابراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ابراهيم في العالمين مجيد. Ya Allah, please help strengthen our iman and make us among the Muslims. Ya Allah, please protect us from the fitness of the Dajjal. Ya Allah, please help ease the suffering of the world. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. ويجعل الكفر وينهى عن الفحشاء ويكرم البغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروني اذكركم واشكروني ولا تكفرون. الله اكبر الله اكبر اشهد ان لا اله الا الله اشهد ان محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله من حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله من حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. وعليكم السلام. I'll be very pleased. I know you feel like this. Get up and do your sunnah, but just listen for a few minutes. It'll be done as soon as possible. But one thing which we talk about every week, and this is the time of winter, and the family health in remote part of Pakistan, they really have a lot of things are needed to get through the winter. And first thing was the clothing. They need the blanket, they need the thing. Although we were able to put together the half of what they need. And inshallah, we hope that we can send more. And the mother, she's been looking for money for the medicine, which she has to take it. But many times you have to choose between that. So help from our community. If you like to help, give me the cash so I can check it from the collection for the visit, inshallah. So Jazakallah khair. So you have to listen to that. Allah Ta'ala give me the ability to be here standing with the Imam to ask for that. And if technology is such that you can send it very quickly. So they can have that. They have to get those clothing, blankets, and other things which they will not find it. We are so far away from them. Yet Allah Ta'ala choose to give this humble masjid the ability to hold that. So inshallah, take care of yourself and do whatever you can, inshallah, and
And again, thankful to our Imam that mashallah he came and he went through the topic. Assalamu alaikum.